Okay, so this has to be just me reading a little more into it. The Republic of Guyana, located in South America, neighbors of Trinidad and Tobago, fellow CARICOM members have rejected Trinidad and Tobago's flood relief offer. For those who don't know, currently Guyana is facing some of the worst flooding they have seen for probably quite a few decades, and they are struggling with it. At least they were struggling with it. There has been quite a bit of loss of life. There has been quite a bit of loss of livestock, of livelihood. Guyana has a thriving farming community, both in livestock and in arable farming, and flooding and farming doesn't generally go together. And that is what we're seeing happening. I believe it was about a month ago I was reading an article and I saw one farmer lose something like, was it $20 million? Bearing in mind it is Guyanese dollars, but 20 million in Guyanese dollars is still quite a bit of money. I think when I worked it out, it was somewhere around 600,000 TT dollars. And well, if you're American, that works out a little under 100,000 US. But bear in mind, to the people who lost the money, it's not a little bit of money. It was still a lot of money to them, and it's a lot to lose, especially when you weren't looking forward to losing any. Farming is such a thing where you have to plan ahead. Many farmers, when you see a farmer is planting and he has down some crops here, the money that he has in hand has to last him out through till harvest time, and then till being able to sell these crops. And similarly for livestock farming also. Farming is a really kind of difficult thing, you know. Farming is one of those things that every time I see someone stealing from a farmer, I am of the view, if you are caught stealing from a farmer, we should put you in a public square and get one of the farmers themselves, you know, those farmers who cut in grass whole day and weed in dirt and have their back bent, you know, so the forearm have some good strength in it and the back have some good strength, and we give them a belt, a nice thick leather belt, and anybody caught stealing from a farmer, I think that would be better punishment. Certainly better punishment than putting them in prison for farmers again to feed them. Anyway, back to Guyana. Guyana not accepting TNT flood relief offer. Guyana has refused to accept the large consignment of items offered by TNT to help with flood relief efforts in that nation. Guardian media understands that TNT government officials had put together the items in accordance with Guyana's request through the CARICOM Secretariat, but when this country made contact to work out the logistics for delivery, TNT was told the items were unnecessary. Guardian media is able to quote from a letter signed by the Guyanese Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Hugh Hilton Todd, dated June 18, 2021, directed to his counterpart in TNT, which stated that they needed pumps to remove excess water, but nothing else on the consignment list they provided to CARICOM. So that was on the 18th. That's some time ago. This video would be releasing on the 26th. So the 18th would be 8 days ago. That's a week ago that it was a week ago that they refused these items and said that all they really needed were pumps. Todd in the letter expressed the sincere gratitude of the Guyanese people in the face of severe flooding affected regions in Guyana, but added that I wish to advise that critical items at this time is for pumps to meet the urgent demand for enhanced drainage capacity. Other items have otherwise been adequately covered to date, Todd said. Neither Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley nor Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Amory Brown were available to comment and did not respond to calls or texts for a response. All of this, the article goes on to point out that all of this comes after the bit of debacle with the vaccines, and Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister referring to Trinidad and his government's acquisition of vaccines. He brought up Guyana's name and their procedure in acquiring these vaccines, and since then the Guyanese government have not been very happy with him, with their advisor to national health coming out against him. And then if you're following from yesterday's video, we saw the Guyana Attorney General going on his Facebook Live and rehashing this issue. I saw that in the end of this article itself, the Guyana Attorney General saying that he didn't mean to re-energize what he called this stale issue. And I hope that the issue is stale and laid to rest, because honestly, it seems like it was a bit of a misunderstanding, at least from the point of the Trinidad and Tobago side. And I'm not sure exactly why Guyana took that to be so offensive. Well, in fact, I kind of know why they took it to be so offensive. If you want to know exactly why they took it to be so offensive, this is an advertisement for a video I did before. Go look at yesterday's video, and I suggested why I think they took some of this so personal. But I'm hoping that in this case, it's really that they don't need these supplies anymore. Because if it is that just out of the pettiness of squabble over words, they would refuse help for their citizens, that would be some truly poor governance. It can't be that words have you allowing your people to suffer. And that's just it. When you're seeing governments squabble with each other, when you see a politician from one country squabble with another politician from another country, and they use their power and they use their abilities to get a little bit of pettiness in and among each other, even when we're dealing inter-country, politicians inside the same country, and they use their power to get a little bit of pettiness over on the other one. What you have to bear in mind is the power of many politicians is actually the people's power. The people's power and the people's money and the people's resources and the people's lives. So if a politician is playing games in this case where they actually do need some supplies but they're refusing it from Trinidad because they're angry with Trinidad, I really hope not. I don't want to believe that Guyana's politicians and politics could get that petty. And I have reason to be suspicious, because they're saying that they do not need any supplies beside the pumps to get some drainage, to get some extra drainage done. And that's understandable. If the flooding isn't fresh, it's not like the flooding is something that just happened. It would have been flooding from weeks ago. And if there's still water in some areas, then obviously there may be some pumping that needs to happen to get this water out. But we're seeing also that the Canadian High Commission donates $8.9 million to CDC flood relief. That's over in Guyana. The Civil Defense Commission on Thursday received $8.9 million from the Canadian High Commission to boost its flood relief efforts. CDC Director General Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig received the donation from the High Commissioner of Canada to Guyana, Mark Berman, at the Canadian Embassy. The Director General said the donation will go towards, among other things, shelter management and providing potable water for those affected by the flood. We recognize now that because of the flooding, there could be water contamination. Having drinking water is essential to prevent an outbreak. So we place a lot of emphasis on ensuring that there is potable water for residents in those communities, he stated. So if Guyana has use for $8.9 million, and they're not using this $8.9 million to go out and buy pumps. And bear in mind, this article, this was released on the 25th, while the other article where we saw that Guyana refused the assistance from Trinidad, that refusal happened on the 18th. So if they were well fitted and they had enough stocks to carry them through their flooding disaster on the 18th, why is it on the 25th that they'll be collecting donations? And in case you are wondering, this CDC, the Civil Defense Commission over in Guyana, is their version of their disaster preparedness organization. This isn't some NGO or just some random group collecting funds on the behalf of Guyanese people. This organization is directly under the control, under the purview of the office of the Guyanese president. So they are very much fully aware that they are collecting these donations. So it's not that I am so upset that we missed our opportunity to send some resources over to Guyana and look like the good guy. It's not that necessarily. I'm just wondering and hoping that it isn't some petty politics that could be causing more difficulty on our Guyanese neighbors. Because especially when you look over the last 2 weeks or so, you've seen that many residents over in Guyana are really going through some difficult times. I saw recently there was a rice farmer who took his own life because of the debts that he accrued due to this flooding and the difficulties it it caused on his farming practice. So really and truly, I hope that things are going as well with the flood relief over in Guyana as the officials are saying. If you're a Guyanese person and you subscribe to me, well, if you're not subscribed, this is a good time to be subscribed. And anyone else who's looking, you don't just have to be Guyanese to subscribe to this. Anyone subscribe there, you can subscribe to. And click the notification bell if you'd like to also to know when new videos are dropping. And that like button if you like this video. And drop a comment especially if you're Guyanese, drop a comment and tell me, are things really that good over in Guyana? Are things with the flood relief programs going that well? I'd like to know as a fellow CARICOM member. And speaking of CARICOM, CARICOM has some interesting things to discuss today, Friday, if you're watching this on Friday. CARICOM is set to discuss some very interesting things. The Prime Minister over in Antigua, who has been familiar with my videos for a couple of weeks so far, would know that I have a special place in my heart for this Antiguan Prime Minister. He's offering KFC. Well, they were thinking about offering KFC. KFC, money, land, just to take the vaccine. Over here in Trinidad, the only thing you're getting is ridicule. So, at least over in Antigua, taking the vaccine has many other benefits besides offering potential immunity. And this Prime Minister, Mr. Gaston Brown over in Antigua, he's a unique character with some very unique facial hair. Personally, as the leader of a country, I wouldn't attempt to do that specific mustache style he's doing. The last leader of a country we know with that kind of... Anyway, let's not get into that. So, Mr. Gaston Brown, he proposed a couple weeks ago that coming out of the pandemic, the CARICOM territories look into removing the taxes on their flights for inter-regional flights. And that makes perfect sense to me. Can you imagine what would happen if, as we lift off the lockdown measures, as the borders reopen, there are cheap flights to be had to any one of our fellow CARICOM territories? Trust me, those flights will be taken. There are lots of trainees, and things are difficult for some people. Things are really difficult for some people. There are some people who are in some really struggling positions and they may not be able to fly anyway. But things are difficult for everyone. Right now in Trinidad and Tobago, our store, Massey Stores, previously known as Hilo, they're selling a baigan, also known as melangen, or eggplant, according to where you're from, whichever you'd like to call it, that little purple emoticon that you use to mean naughty things. They're selling one of those for $30. That's a lot of money. Usually, let me put it this way. Usually you may be able to get a whole one of that for probably $6 if so much. But the real point in that is that people are still lining up outside of Massey to go buy these super expensive goods. And Massey isn't the only place that sells these. I saw on Facebook a farmer made a post where he posted that same Massey expensive baigan and was like, he doesn't understand why people would complain about this. And he posts a picture of a whole pile of baigans he has and how cheap he is selling them, and you can get them. He puts his contact there for you to get them. The fact that people are still buying in Massey, my point is, the fact that people are still lining up to buy in Massey means there are lots of trainees with lots of money. So provide the opportunity for them to spend it within the region. Why allow them to go to Miami and spend it? Best they go to Barbados. That would be better for our region. Better they go to Guyana. And maybe they can mend some of these bridges that seem to be so broken down between us and Guyana. St. John's, Antigua. Gaston Brown, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, is to table a proposal today urging regional governments to support an initiative to significantly reduce the taxes for air travel in a bid to encourage intra-regional travel as the threat from the coronavirus pandemic declines. I promise you, I'm going to keep my ears open to see what comes of this, and if there are cheap flights, I am going to tell you about it in, well, whichever video I hear about the cheap flights are. Until then, let's hope that this happens, and maybe we could all have a lime next year in St. Lucia or something. That would be a good vibe. Don't forget to click that like button again if you haven't clicked it. And I'll see you again tomorrow for the next video at 10 a.m.
Feel the music rising with the tide.